I still remember the sound of my son's laughter echoing through this house. It used to fill every corner, from the front yard where I dried clothes to the kitchen where I made his favourite parathas. Those were the sounds that gave my life meaning. I never imagined that one day that same house would feel so quiet that even the ticking of the old wall clock would hurt my heart. My name doesn't matter much. I am just a mother, like so many others in our small village. My husband passed away when our son Amir was only 10. Life after that was not easy, but I tried my best to raise him with love, honesty, and faith. Every day I would wake before dawn, light the stove, and pray silently that my son's future would be better than mine. He was a bright child, kind, soft-spoken, and always thinking of others before himself. Years passed, and Amir grew into a fine young man. He got a job in the nearby town, started earning well, and soon told me about a girl he wanted to marry. Her name was Sarah. She was educated, modern, and from a well-off family. At first, I was nervous. I had always imagined choosing my son's bride myself, someone simple and rooted in our traditions. But when I saw how his eyes lit up while speaking of her, my heart softened. I told him, "If she makes you happy, then she will make me happy too." Their wedding was beautiful, small but full of laughter. I remember watching them during the ceremony, thinking I had gained a daughter. Everyone in the village congratulated me. "Now your home will be full of joy again," they said. And for a while, it truly was. Sarah was polite in the beginning. She would help me in the kitchen, ask about my health, and even sit beside me in the evenings. Amir was busy with work, but every night we would have dinner together, the three of us, laughing over little things. I thought, maybe this is what peace feels like. But slowly, things began to change. It started with small things, a look, a silence, a word left unsaid. Sarah began to spend more time in her room, on her phone, or visiting her family in town. When I tried to talk to her, she would smile politely, but her eyes seemed distant. I noticed Amir too had become quieter. He still respected me, but he started agreeing with Sarah more often, even when I wasn't wrong. I told myself it was just adjustment, that all new marriages take time. Then came the day she told me, "Ami, I've been thinking, maybe we should hire someone to help with house chores. You've done enough all your life." Her tone was soft, but something about it made me feel small, like I had suddenly become a guest in my own home. Weeks later, she began to rearrange things. The kitchen shelves, the furniture, even my husband's old photograph from the living room wall. When I asked her about it, she smiled and said, "It's just for a fresh look," but to me it felt like erasing the life I had built. One evening, I overheard them talking in the next room. Sarah said, "It's hard for me to feel free here. Everything reminds me I'm living in someone else's house." Amir replied softly, "Please don't say that. She's my mother. She means well." But Sarah said nothing after that. Only silence. That silence started to live between us. One morning, I found Amir sitting outside, his face heavy with worry. I asked, "What's wrong, Beta?" He looked at me for a long moment and said, "Nothing, Ami. Just tired." But I knew his heart was torn between his wife and his mother. And then came that evening, the one I will never forget. Sarah called me to the living room, her voice calm but firm. "Ami, I think it's time you took a break. You've done so much for us. Maybe you should stay with your brother for a while. It will be good for you and for us." For a few seconds, I didn't understand. My heart felt numb. Then I realized she was asking me to leave. My son stood beside her, silent, eyes lowered. I looked at him, hoping he would stop her, say something, anything. But he didn't. So I smiled. I nodded, and I said, "You're right." maybe a little change will be good that night. I packed my small bag, just a few clothes, my husband's photo, and the prayer beads I had carried for years. Before leaving, I touched the walls of my home one last time. They were cold. As I stepped outside, the sky was heavy with clouds. I could smell rain coming. My heart whispered, "This is what motherhood is, to give everything and still have to walk away quietly." The walk to my brother's house that evening felt endless. Every step carried the weight of a lifetime. I didn't cry, but my heart felt like it was breaking quietly inside. When I reached, my brother and his wife welcomed me without questions, just warmth and silence. That was all I needed. Days passed slowly. I helped with chores, sat outside at dusk watching the fields, and pretended I was fine. But inside, I kept replaying my son's face, his laughter, the sound of him calling me Ammi. Nights were the hardest. I would sit by the window whispering prayers not for him to return, but for his happiness. Because a mother's love doesn't stop, even when her child forgets her. Months went by with no word from him. I tried to accept it, telling myself maybe this was how life was meant to be. Children build their own worlds, and sometimes mothers are left outside the walls they helped build. Still, every morning, I prayed that Allah would keep him safe. Then one afternoon, I heard a knock. When I opened the door, Amir stood there. My heart froze. He looked tired, older somehow. "Ami," he said softly. That one word broke the distance of months. I let him in. He sat quietly while I made him tea, the way I always did. When I placed the cup before him, he whispered, "I'm sorry, Ami." I should have spoken up that day. I looked at him and smiled gently. "You did what you thought was right, Beta. It's all right." Tears filled his eyes. "Sarah left," he said after a pause. "She couldn't stay. She said our house didn't feel like hers." I tried, Ami. I really did. I reached for his hand. "Don't blame her. Some people come into our lives to teach us what love really means." He lowered his head and cried. I had imagined that moment so many times, but when it finally came, I didn't feel anger, only peace. Because sometimes forgiveness is the only way to heal what time cannot. Amir stayed that night. Before sleeping, he said quietly, "Ami, come back home." I smiled. "That's your home now, Beta. I'll come if you want me there." He looked at me with tears in his eyes. "It's not home without you." So I returned. Not to take back anything, but to fill the silence again with love. Slowly, things began to heal. Amir started smiling more, and we cooked together like old times. He even placed his father's picture back on the wall. One evening, he asked, "What did this all teach you, Ami?" I thought for a moment and said, "That love isn't about holding on. It's about letting go, without letting bitterness stay behind." The breeze that night felt softer. Somewhere a child was laughing in the distance. I smiled and whispered a prayer of gratitude for the pain, the healing, and the lesson that love, when pure, always finds its way home. Because in the end, I didn't lose my son. I just learned to love him in silence, and that was enough.